Hearts where dreams align. Matchmaker mentor, guiding with design. Arlene Washburn, the voice of the way. Illuminate the path for those who sway. With a heart so pure, she steps in the game. Teaching the rules, she's igniting the flame. Ethics in play, she's setting the tone. Bringing together those once all alone. In every connection, she sees what we lack. Rise up, take your place, it's your time to shine. In the dance of love, everything's by design. With the mentor by your side, the fears fade away. Arlene's wisdom lights the night, paving your way. Hearts where dreams align.
Welcome to the Matchmaker Mentor Podcast, the show where aspiring and experienced matchmakers come to sharpen their skills, grow their businesses, and elevate the matchmaking industry. Your host is Arlene Washburn, an award-winning ethical matchmaking advocate, mentor, and industry innovator. Let's dive in.
Welcome, everyone, to the Matchmaker Mentor Podcast. I'm your host, Arlene Washburn, here to guide you through the ins and outs of matchmaking, relationships, and business strategies to help you thrive in this exciting industry. And today, I am super excited about this conversation, one that everybody needs to have, and that is talking about sales and sales strategies. And so I am welcoming my guest, Adam Sweeney. Thank you. Welcome to the podcast. All
Yeah,
right.
no, saying thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And, I have a bunch of questions for you, but before we dive in, can you tell me a little bit about your personal situation? Are you single? How-
Starting off on the personal side of things, I am single. I was in a relationship for the last year with a girl called Alexandra. That's while I was living in Colombia. Now I'm in Argentina as of a month ago. I have a remote-based business, so I take a little bit of advantage where I can moving around.
That's amazing. So are you a nomad?
A digital nomad is what they're calling it, yeah.
Uh-huh. I'm so jealous because if I really had my dream come true, that's what I would be. But my husband has so much stuff. And we have this big old house with a bunch of stuff in it. So that's awesome. Where are you originally from?
Specifically for the last 2 years, remote as mentioned, but honestly the plans to get to America. I think that's where all the big business is happening. That's the opportunity. And whereabouts are you in America, Arlene?
I'm actually in New Jersey, and I'm going to ask you to repeat where you're from because it cut out, at least on my end. I couldn't hear it. Can you say that again?
I'm half Irish, half Danish.
Wow.
Mostly Irish. I'd say I've lived in Ireland 18 years, and then
Mhm.
Denmark maybe 6, and then rest of the world another 7, let's say.
Wow. That's amazing. Are you really tall?
6'1", well 6.5, but I'm rounding up.
Oh my gosh. So you're good looking, tall, smart, single. The women are going to go crazy when they see this video. And by the way, if you're interested in meeting Adam, you should just reach out to me. I'll try to make that connection. I'm kidding, Adam. I don't want to put you on the spot. But okay, so let's talk about what you do. I know you're a digital nomad, and we met through sales and sales strategies, and I would love to know more about what you do and what you believe in terms of sales, right? Because it's one of those things that, when I teach sales, people think that they're like, I don't want to do sales. I feel salesy. I feel like I'm hurting people or I'm forcing them. And I'm like, that's not what sales is all about. So I would love to hear about you and your journey and how you got into this and that kind of thing.
So my background is sales. Since I didn't go to college, I left school early, but 18 onwards, all I did was sales. And when I was 26, I set up a lead generation agency. And then since then, I've just been running businesses. And in regards to what you just mentioned there, if you're selling something that people are getting annoyed at you over, it's because you're not selling a good product or service. If you're selling something people want with a good offer, then the calls are they're pleasant. That's what I would say.
I really could not agree more. And me personally, I've been in sales for many, many years. And if I don't believe in the product that I'm selling, I'm just not going to get involved. And I think that's definitely the recommendation. In the world of matchmaking, most of the time, people go into it because they're very heart centered and they want to put people together. But you can't have a business if you're not selling, right? You have to bring people in. And so that's one of the things that we really focus a lot of our time is, their pricing model, their structure, how they process a client through the journey of having a client and that kind of thing. So have you ever heard about matchmaking or had any thoughts about matchmaking at all?
Do you know what? When we first had our chat and I was reviewing the website and I was looking at the referrals and things, we work with a lot of advisors, right? We have Consulting Accelerator as one of the agencies. I initially thought you were an advisory setting up referrals with people in business to business. And then I was like, okay, matchmaking as in dating. So that was honestly the first I heard of it. It's interesting. Maybe you can tell me a bit more.
Yeah, and it's interesting that the impetus for this podcast was really about proliferating this industry and helping people understand that this exists, because truthfully right now in America and most of the world there aren't enough marriages happening. There's a very low birth rate, and I think in part it's because so many people have gone to the apps, and the apps, like, they filter by meaningless things that don't really help determine if you're going to have a long-term relationship, like core values, lifestyle goals, etc. That's not on the apps. They're asking about height, weight, looks, and all of that. And yeah, that's going to matter at some point. You want to be attracted to the person that you're with, but that's not what you filter for, right? So matchmakers who are well trained can do that. They'll find out from one individual to the other what their core values are. They look for alignment in key areas in order to bring people together in a meaningful way. And traditionally in America, most of the people who use matchmakers are very, very wealthy people who don't want their names or faces online, who want that privacy and want the ability to have someone vet for them in advance. So they're only meeting people who, to put it in simple terms, like who are qualified to meet them, because they want to weed out the gold diggers or the crazies, etc. And a good matchmaker will do a background check. They'll check people's identification, make sure that they verify the person's single, etc. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. But when you have really good looking guys like you, who are tall and very desirable, you're going to get a lot of women trying to get into a relationship with you. And if you are marriage minded, you might end up wasting a lot of time with the wrong people. So I always feel that people who, in your situation would benefit from working with a matchmaker. How does that sound?
See, right now, like dating it's time consuming. Right now, I'm just focused on my business. I have like a very clear goal of what I need to do in the next year and a half, and everything outside of it is distraction basically. I have my breaks are at the gym, exercise and walking my dog, and I say no to everything else.
No, and I hear you. I mean, I think a lot of guys go through that because men have been trained to think that they have to have accomplished XYZ before they actually, have a relationship that's meaningful that leads to marriage. And but I get that. But part of the thing with matchmaking is that usually it's people who are really busy running a business, or they travel a lot, or they're celebrities, or all the things that are very time consuming. And like you said, dating is very time consuming. So matchmakers do the first dates for you, if you
You
will.
get me a good date, and okay, then we'll talk. I do honestly though, I do like genuinely believe as a man, you said we're kind of trained to think that. I think it's hardwired in us. I think we're supposed to build ourselves up. And the more we build ourselves up, then the more doors will open for women down the line. Like 5 years ago, I don't think I would have the same opportunities with the same women because I didn't have as much going on and it's not as much of an appeal, you know? So
Yeah.
we need to build ourselves up first.
No, I hear you. And, part of the disconnect right now is that women in America, at least, are going to control 2/3 of all the money and wealth in America by 2030 due to inheritance and for other reasons, because we're no longer in that traditional state of getting married to have security. You know, there was a time where a woman couldn't have a credit card unless she had a husband, right? And so those times have changed. And it's really creating like a lot of confusion of traditional upbringings and mindsets versus the reality of the new world that we're in. And we're in that phase of a shift. I've been calling it the big shift. And I'm just, I'm hoping that, maybe matchmaking can be an avenue to bring people together. And perhaps women are going to be dating the way men have for a long time, which is you didn't care if a woman had a great job or had a high level education. As long as you were physically and emotionally attracted, you were open to them. And that may have to happen, or a lot of people are going to stay single for a long time. A lot of women in particular, if they feel like, oh, he's got to do better than me, he's got to make more money than me and all that. I don't
See,
know.
honestly, I'm okay with it because I realize I'm kind of just like realistic with some things. I realize we're in 2024 and we have our brains have developed a lot quicker than our hardwirings. So there's certain things we still look at that go back to when we were cavemen, right? And women look at men because they think he looks strong, even though they might say they like the muscles, but actually it's something in their brain saying he could protect me, right? And same with like it comes out now as money. He has money, but actually it's can he provide? Right?
Mhm.
So like I'm okay with that. Maybe not gold digging to an extreme extent, but if a woman likes a man because he has some money, that's fine, right? Why wouldn't you prefer that? You know?
Yeah, I hear you. This is an interesting topic because you're such a young person. I mean, you're younger than my daughter, and so I love to hear the perspective of the younger generation. If you are still thinking in that kind of traditional mindset, it's interesting. Yeah. Anyway, enough about that because I want to move into. I'm so fascinated by the fact that you dropped out of school and went into sales right away. And what made you do that? And where did you learn sales?
Honestly, I've been like when I was a teenager, I was a little bit of a troublemaker, just in not in a bad way. You know, I wasn't like a malicious kid, but I had some issues in school. I would get kicked out of classes and had I think 3 schools by the age of 16, and after that was done. But I was always really good at talking myself out of the trouble. So I kind of realized when I was 20 that I had good communication skills and sales was going to align with it. And or say 18 had the initial job in Australia, and then 20 I really started designating my career towards it. I went to a tech sales job, and pretty much I think every role after that I started excelling in each position, and then I think it just led itself into entrepreneurship. If you have sales, that is one of the core skills you need to grow a business, and then it was just step after step after that point.
And so I guess my question regarding sales, because I heard what you said and I feel very much aligned to that. Like I used to be a troublemaker as a kid in school, got kicked out once or twice also. And I could like finagle a situation and get myself out of trouble a lot of times, right? And that was almost, I feel like that was an innate ability, or perhaps it was just the way that I grew up, with a single mom who was an immigrant and I translated. And so I kind of became an adult very quickly. But I'm wondering, do you feel that an individual who is good at sales is born with that ability, or can they learn that?
Definitely both. Like you can be good, you can have natural communication skills, which is going to help you get better faster. But like for sure, you can learn sales. It's not that difficult. There's a few simple principles I think everyone can implement straight away. Like the most important thing is find out who you're speaking to, what is the key problem they have, and why are they on that call. And if you identify what they're struggling with, you now know what to speak to them about. I think
Hmm.
there's a common misconception that what is it? Prospects raise objections. No, sorry, so they're backwards. Sales, no, prospects raise objections. I had it right the first time.
Yeah.
But actually, the truth is, salespeople do. If you talk to someone about something they don't need, like a part of the service they're not interested in, you're just going to get it. Oh no, that's not for me. Right. If you find out specifically at the beginning of the call why they're there, what they're hurting with, and what you can specifically help with, focus everything around that.
That is such an important thing to know for matchmakers, especially even not just in sales, but just in being a matchmaker. You really need to listen and understand what the problem is in order to help people, because everyone has different reasons why they might be dating or single or not connecting properly with the ideal partner. So it's really interesting. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And it's interesting because I've always been good at sales naturally, but I've also taken a lot of courses, and some of them I just cannot get behind, like a lot of them, some of the courses are just like a used car salesman, you know what I mean? And for this industry, which is very heart centered and very much about caring about people's emotions and where they're at, you just can't use that kind of tactic. So I would love to hear some of the principles that you were mentioning that people should have as far as sales goes.
The first thing is what I just mentioned, right? The pain. And then after that, I would say is never sound like a salesperson, because no one wants to be sold to. Like you said, you sound like a car salesperson. I've been in sales my whole life and I can't get off fast enough on a cold call, right? So any time you're on a call, you don't want to sound like a salesperson. You want to be having a conversation, right? So using your tonality in a way where you're conversing with them as opposed to selling. And I would also say things like questions over pitching, right? Instead of saying, hey, this is why you need this, and these are the key benefits of it, this is why it's amazing. Ask them questions. Could you see yourself using this? Does this seem like something that would be of benefit to you? And kind of start using closing questions to get them towards where you want it to go and get them saying yes to things as opposed to explaining why they need it.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Totally. Oh my gosh. As you were talking, I was thinking about all the messages I get on LinkedIn of people telling me how they're going to help me fix this or that. And then they'll say something about my website. I'm like, I have multiple websites. I don't even know what the hell you're talking about. And it annoys me. It's almost like condescending, right? Like they're assuming that they can help me with something, and they go right into a pitch.
There's one thing, lead generation, if you're doing outbound sales, it's a different type of selling, right? You're trying to get them on the meeting as opposed to trying to get them to agree to do business with you. That's a different kettle of fish. That part of it, everything is about an offer. And if you know Alex Hormozi, $100 million offers, everyone has one now. So if you don't have that, you're going to get left out by the competition, I think, which is something where you're taking the risk in engaging with them, right? I'll give you a free sample. I'll give you a free month. I'll give you a free session. I'll give you, if I don't deliver on X, then you don't pay me X, right? Or, a guarantee of X number of meetings in our case, for example. That will ease the sense of risk. And then on top of that, you also need to have some case studies beside that, because you're a stranger, right? So you're literally just a profile picture in an inbox with a little bit of text beside it. So you need to demonstrate why you're worth listening to and speaking to.
But just going back to this lead generation, and let's just say you're doing a cold outreach. A lot of matchmakers use LinkedIn as well. Obviously, they're business people. They want to reach out to folks. They don't know their relationship status. However, what is the ideal way for them to reach out without, being salesy, or even to engage, especially matchmakers? Because I feel that on LinkedIn, people just disassociate from anything to do with dating and relationships. But, these are business people reaching out to potential clients. So it becomes very challenging. And I'm curious what your thoughts would be that, how they should approach that.
Before we start a campaign for any type of business, we do a market entry report, which is basically market research and user interviews, right? So the first thing I would suggest everyone does is create a template that says you're doing user interviews. It's not a sales message. It's you doing market research for your growing business. And you're looking for, X profile. So you could say, all right, I'm looking for CEOs in X industry, willing to help with a 10-minute user interview. This is what we're doing. This is why I need help with it. On that call, the 10-minute user interview, ask questions like, what would be your dream outcome working with a matchmaker? What is the biggest struggle you have a matchmaker could help with? When you ran 10 of them, you then will have some trends to the types of answers you've been seeing, and then you know exactly what to say in your templates. If 9 out of 10 of those people responded with the exact same struggle or exact same dream outcome, you now know what to say in your templates that's going to resonate with 90% of the prospect list. You could guess, but this is how you get past the guesswork and know what you're doing is going to work.
I love that. I love the fact that you're positioning it as, someone giving input. I think people love to share and tell, and also the time factor. You're saying 10 minutes. So it's not a long-winded thing that people feel, okay, I can give 10 minutes of my input to someone. That's so smart. And so would you say that those people that you're reaching out to are potential clients as well?
Yeah, they could be, for sure. Like, you're opening, some people will want to book in just to help, but for sure you will get people who would be interested in it. And realistically, if they are a CEO or whatever it might be and they're giving time to it, they think it's interesting to some extent, right? They're not going to do it for someone they don't want to speak to.
This is really interesting because I know right now a lot of the matchmakers will reach out with, hey, I'm a matchmaker and I saw your profile and I think you seem like a very interesting person who might be a good match for one of my clients. It's absolutely free. And if you're not, maybe you know someone, and I'm like, ugh, I don't know that that's the right thing to do.
That's what everyone's saying. Those lines like, oh, I was on your, it's a lie. First of all, it's a lie. You weren't on their profile. You're using like an automation tool. You're copy pasting the message. Everyone knows it because everyone's receiving that message. There's not that many people that are on their profile like, oh, I was looking at this. So you just want to get straight to the point, right? Use a small amount of text as possible because no one is going to read the message. They're going to open the message, and if it's 3 paragraphs long, let's say 4, 3 could be okay in some circumstances. If it's 4 paragraphs long, they won't even read it, right? Maybe you'll get 3 words out of them. So I would say even in those circumstances, make the hook in the first line. And then even if you're only getting the first sentence read, at least you have the chance to hook them. If you start with, I was on your profile, it's like, I'm gone at that point. If I see I was on your profile, I'm just like, no, I'm gone. That's it.
It's so true. And I love what you talked about, just adding value immediately. Like, if they want to reach out in that way as well, it's like, hey, some sort of something like I had an ebook when I was a matchmaker that shows 150 ways to meet someone in real life organically, because people always say, I want to meet someone organically. And I'm like, here's 150 places where you can meet someone organically. And I love to share that with you.
Because we got to do the approaching. The men have to do the approaching. The women will give a stare or they'll look nice, but the men have to approach. And that takes a lot of confidence. The only way you build that skill is by getting rejected. And women are also brutal at rejecting men who do approach. And to be honest, half the time they have boyfriends anyway, just by statistics. But most guys are afraid to do that because they think they're going to get rejected.
Yeah, that is really a big problem now more than ever, because I think men are more and more behind a computer and they're not getting the in-person, in real life exposure to individuals. So they're more confident about approaching someone online on Instagram than meeting a woman, and that is a problem. It's the fear of rejection, which I think is something that also affects sales, right? That fear of rejection where, oh, I shouldn't bother them. I shouldn't keep calling them because they're going to say no. It's like, you want to get to a yes or a no. So you're going to have to keep approaching, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's so funny. So has your ability to sell as well as you do helped you in your, just as we're talking about this, right? Are you confident approaching women in real life without any,
I got no shame. I never have, to be honest, though. Not in a sense of like, it's not easy. Like, it's kind of like anything. You got to do it a few times and then you'll build confidence or the skill. It's like going to the gym, right? You're going to start weak and then you get stronger the more you do it. So some people will have an easier time doing it, but it's not a fun thing to do. Like, you don't know how it's going to turn out, right? And you just got to do it, though. I don't really like using dating apps like Tinder and things like that, so I will do it. But if you haven't done it in a while, like when I broke up with my girlfriend, I was like, shit, I got to do this again. And then it's a little bit awkward at the start, but then, yeah, it's just repetition. But honestly, I would say 90% of men are not doing that. I think they're scared of the rejection, I would say.
90%, you think?
Like, I don't know. I would say, like, actually, statistics wise, if we're counting every single man who, like you said, is behind the computer and like maybe, right? The confident men who get women will have an easier time doing it. But I think a small portion of men get more access to a larger portion of the women. Because like you said, the women want to date up, right? So
Yeah.
there's a smaller pool of men and they're more likely probably to date around as the women, I would say. So
I agree
it's
with you.
unfortunate.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And what's interesting is that you don't have to be the best looking guy. If you're confident and you approach a woman, you might have a chance, right? And there are beautiful women who don't even get approached that much because guys are so intimidated, which really sucks for these women, right? So confidence, I think, is key to life.
Mostly, I think men judge women a lot more by beauty than women do men. Well, it does obviously matter to some women, but you'll see a lot more better looking women with worse looking men, I would say, than vice versa, right? Men can do other things. They can become successful. They can go to the gym. You can still like improve how you look, but yeah, like you're saying, it's not everything, no.
Yeah. It's interesting because there's a study out about that very same thing that couples that are of a similar attraction level are more likely to succeed over time than if there's a huge disparity in looks.
It's
But I,
probably I lived in Colombia for a year in Medellin, which has to be the gold digging capital of the world. And it is. So I saw a few things. And honestly, sometimes it's obvious, right? Maybe there's like 30-year age gaps. The guy obviously has money. The girl's young and beautiful, but she has a lot of options. And if she ends up getting bored, I can see how it doesn't work out in the long term. So if you're with them for the wrong reasons from the get-go, there's no way it's going to last.
yeah. And Colombia and Venezuela has had so many Miss America, or not Miss America, but like, Miss Universe than most countries. I don't know if you know that a lot of them are from Colombia and Venezuela. They're beautiful. That's a place I want to go to. So, do you speak Spanish fluently?
I do. Well, no, fluent. It's not as good as my English, but I hablo español un poquito.
Oh, that's awesome. How many languages do you speak?
The problem is I forget them, right? So technically I should have three, right? So my Spanish is decent. I don't know if I can say I speak it fluently, but Danish was my first language. I moved to Ireland when I was 4 or 5. I forgot it. I moved back there when I was 15. And every time you leave and you stop speaking the language, you forget it. So I've like relearned Danish twice and I've forgotten it twice. But I think now it's English, Spanish, and then Danish is just lagging behind it.
Yeah, I hear you because I just got back from Mexico and I speak Spanish, quote unquote, fluently because that was my first language. But there's a lot of technical words that, if you speak a language casually with your family or something, you're not talking business language with them, right? So when I go to say something, like, it would be very hard for me to conduct business in Spanish because I don't know all the terms of all the different things. But yeah, you do forget it. And I've always been married to American men who don't speak Spanish, so I don't really practice it very often. But I love
I
that. I
actually
love that all these different countries that people usually have multiple languages that they speak.
I had the same thing with Danish because I was speaking to all my friends and watching movies or whatever in Danish, but then I went to apply for a Danish job and the interview was totally different than the words you're using with your friends. Because also it's very formal and the conversations are conversations you don't usually have. So it's almost like a whole other part of the language, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. What would you say? I'm just really curious now that we went down this route of the men and what they're doing and how they're approaching and all that. What do you think men are looking for in a woman, especially coming from a
First and most obvious thing is how they look, how they're presented. That's what gets all men's attention. There's no secret, right? And what comes after that, I think is different. I think men have two types of ways of approaching women. I think in general, men and women like really don't understand each other that well. Men think women think the way men do, and men think the way they do, and they're both like totally different. It's true. Like it's
Mhm.
totally different. And they approach them based on that, but it's not the way it works. Um Sorry, can you just repeat the question? I
Well,
lost my
I,
train of thought.
I would, okay, so let's just make believe. I know you're not currently looking for a wife or anything, but if you were, what would you be looking for? I mean, obviously we know about the attraction. That's that's a given, especially with a man. But beyond that, what would you be looking for?
It depends. So I remember what I was going to say now. Thank you. So there's two types of things men look for in women, or two types of ways they get attracted for, I would say. One is kind of like what you could call short-term mating strategy, and one long-term, right? So some women might go looking for male attention and dress a certain way, and that attracts one type of avenue for a man. They only have one thing on their mind. Long-term relationships, like wife, you're probably looking for someone who's smart, who's educated, well presented, who is interesting to speak to. And then obviously the beauty is one part of it. But if you're looking for a wife, those are the things you're looking for.
Hmm.
If you're going to a nightclub, maybe men will say other things, right? So I do think it depends.
So you're saying educated. It's funny that you say that because what I have found when I was doing matchmaking was that women wanted to lead with their education and their accomplishments, and the men did not care about that. They wanted to be attracted to someone and know that, there was a chemistry, if you will, for a lack of a better term. Obviously, besides feeling attracted to someone, there needs to be some weird, some sort of chemistry. And they didn't care about her education until maybe later on, or the accomplishments. So it was always the conversation of like, yes, I know you're a lawyer, I know you're really smart and all this stuff, but right now we're focusing on connecting in a different way. Your accomplishments are not going to matter in the beginning. You need to connect person to person. So I'm encouraged to hear that you would want to meet someone who's intelligent or educated. And I guess when you say educated, it's just that they're smart, not necessarily that they have a degree, right? Because
I think probably I have a little bit of a unique experience because I've been living in Latin America for a while, right? So I lived in Europe, I lived in America. I've now been living in Latin America the last 3 or 4 years. So maybe my dating experience the last while is slightly different, but I've been with, I would say, a lot of what you would call beautiful women in the last few years, but without the connection, right? Like I was saying, there's a lot of people in Medellin who look amazing, but maybe they're looking for the wrong things. The relationships aren't that interesting. And honestly, just the way Medellin is set up, they're not that attached to the rest of the world. So like top 50 songs would be reggaeton, right? And you're probably not watching the same news channels you are. So there's not huge, like a lot of people that wouldn't know the Beatles, right? I don't necessarily listen to the Beatles. I'd like to have a conversation around something along those lines from my side of the world. So
mhm.
that's why my brain is starting to go to these places now, I think. If
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes I mean, I'm what you would call a sapiosexual. Like I can, if I were single, I could meet the most beautiful person, but if we're not intellectually compatible, I have a lot of different interests, and I am turned on by someone who's really smart. If they're dumb, they could be the most beautiful, wealthiest man in the world, and I could care less, I mean, you probably wouldn't have a wealthy person if they are not intelligent enough to achieve that. However, to me, intelligence is definitely more important than almost anything else. I want to be able to have great conversations.
Yeah. That's why you got the podcast.
I know, right? So let's give some concrete um, information to anyone who's listening when it comes to sales. The reason I want to do that is not just to be able to promote your business or to sell, whatever it is that you're selling, but also just sales skills that actually help you in your day-to-day life. I really think everything you do is kind of selling. Like, how are you presenting and yourself? If you don't do that, you have a harder time in life wherever you go, right?
Yeah, it's a transferable skill. I think there's different parts to it though. Like there's learning to sell someone on a call for business purposes. And then there's also developing communication skills. Like they're kind of different things. Communication skills you can use for anything. You can go on a podcast, you can talk to your taxi driver, you can get in a sales call. Those are all very transferable. But closing deals and figuring out how to say things that are going to resonate with the prospect on the other end of the call, that's something you can read in a book, right? I think personally the best sales book I've ever read is Spin Selling, which is basically all about conversations. It's about asking questions. If it's a larger sale or someone you're going to be dealing with for a long time, it's about relationship and getting the person to like you and not being pushy. And if it's a smaller sale, it's more about, well, it's not necessarily about being pushy, but you can be pushy. You can just get into it. What's the pain point? What are you struggling with? Here's the key benefits of what I do. Are you interested? And then keep following up very quickly, right? But if you follow up with someone who you're theoretically going to be dealing with for a long time and you're getting annoying, they're not going to want to work with you because their mindset is based on, do I want to talk to this person for a year? Does that make sense?
Totally. And you said a large sales. What constitutes a large sale? Like what dollar amount would you say is considered large?
It depends who you're speaking to, right?
Mhm.
$10,000 to someone living on the street, they might as well be a millionaire. $10,000 to a millionaire might as well be, $1 to them, right? So it depends. I think if it's something that's an ongoing relationship, right, month to month to month, then could treat it like a large sale because it's going to be recurring revenue and you're going to be dealing with them often, right?
That is such a good point. We haven't even talked about recurring income because the reason I asked you what is considered, like a high ticket item is because in the matchmaking world, the lowest thing you might find, especially if someone's seasoned, is around 10,000. And if you go to New York and you want to hire a matchmaker, you're investing, I don't know, $15,000, $20,000, as much as half a million to work with a matchmaker. The pricing is insane, depending on the caliber of people that you work with, like you said. But I still think even if someone is super wealthy, I think you really need to be able to show the value of what you're selling. And even in the conference this past week, someone talked about sales and they were talking about selling outcomes, and that kind of doesn't align with the rules or the laws of the Federal Trade Commission, where if you are selling outcome that is based on the participation of the person you're selling it to, then you can't make those promises. Do you remember the time where the online digital people were saying, do this and make $1 million and all these promises, right? The Federal Trade Commission implemented laws to stop that. Notice now they all have the disclaimer that says, results may vary by person or what, you know what I mean? I can't hear you. Say it again. Say it again. Now I can hear you.
Yeah, that's strange. I don't know why it keeps cutting out. I was saying I'm sure some people in America got sued. There's a lot of lawsuits there, so you gotta be careful what you're offering. I do still think there's a lot of marketers promising the world. And one thing as well that happens in business that some people don't realize is you might get promoted an offer that is real. It might actually be a really easy way to make money when that ad is being promoted, but they're promoting that to a lot of people. So as you're entering the market, if you've fallen for that offer, it means someone else has as well. And the market might be getting saturated very, very quickly, right? And supply and demand changes quite fast. So it might have been a great offer once upon a time, but there might also be a lot of people doing it now too.
Yeah. What would you say is an alternative to promoting outcomes for someone who's pitching their services to someone?
So I think 3% of your market is only ever going to be able to move forward at a single time on average, right? So first of all, you do need to do follow-ups, and if you have an email list, email them once a month, newsletter, whatever it is, keep in their mind because maybe they're not ready to have a chat now. Maybe they are in a month. In regards to finding people who are chatting about these end outcomes, I would say first off, you're better off getting a good prospect list. If you have a 1,000 person prospect list and it's not fully refined and 30% of it is incorrect, you're fighting an uphill battle straight away, right?
Mm.
So that's 30% less results, 30% more work. And that's the first side of things. If you have a good prospect list, then you're going to get right people, right place, right time, or more of them, let's say.
I love that. And I guess that brings us back to lead gen, right? So how to build the right list is so important of the people that what are some recommendations about how to build a list of the right potential clients?
The user interviews. That's it. The user interviews create a few different types of buyer profiles. And this, I think, actually more importantly, split testing. So split testing everything you do, whether it's copy on a website, it's an ad, it's a sales template, it's a deck, whatever it is, test it, right? Instead of trying to make one perfect version, make 5 of them. Realistically, trying to make one perfect version of whatever it is can take hours. And if you just try to make 5 different versions, you can spend the same amount of time on all the different avenues, and it's a lot quicker to do it. And you're going to get much better data. You're going to know what you're now doing is the correct move. And it's the same with those user interviews. First, figure out your demographics. Let's say 3 or 4 different types of buyer profiles you want to test. Then run the user interviews, minimum 5. I would suggest 10. And then once you have the data from all those interviews with each of those buyer profiles, you'll know how much each one is willing to pay, which one has the most interest, and for you yourself, where to base your business.
This is really interesting because I know you're so entrenched in this particular area of business. You're saying split testing now is 5 potential options because it used to be like 2 things, 2 or 3, right? Now we're at 5 where you
But
actually.
never end. You could do 2 at a time, but you should never stop testing, right? Try CEOs in tech, try CEOs in finance, try CEOs in whatever other industry you want to try CFOs, try COOs. Like the small things can make big differences.
Mm.
Even like we track the data on LinkedIn, right? So a HR director or a VP of HR, those things can have difference in just acceptance rates of 15, 30%. That's double.
Amazing. This is so interesting. How do you track data? Are you using some sort of tool for that, or are you just running spreadsheets?
We got all kinds of tools. You need it. So for if you're gonna do the interviews, get an AI recorder on your call. Fathom is good, Otter. That will make a transcript of everything. So you don't need to write down the answers to the questions. Once you have all of those transcripts, let's say you got 10, go to ChatGPT, put the transcripts into 10 Word docs, then import the Word docs to ChatGPT and then ask for commonalities of the findings. That's one way to do that. The data, so you can use automation tools. If it's LinkedIn, linkedhelper.com. If it's email, Instantly, and all those have built-in systems that will show you the data on a dashboard.
Guys, I really hope you're taking this in because this is gold that you're offering here. And I'm obsessed with ChatGPT. I do everything with ChatGPT. I love it. That is such good information because I think one of the issues that I find with my students as they're learning about matchmaking is that they don't want to look at their data. They don't look at reports. And so, you'll ask people the question of, how did you hear about us? But then you never go back and look at the reports to see where you having some effect in terms of your marketing so you can add more fuel to that, right? But I love this idea of using ChatGPT and just putting it right in there. I love it. That's really good.
Like having 10 people on your team, you should be using it for everything, I think. Everything.
So true. It's so true. Okay, so what questions haven't I asked you that you want to share about sales, marketing, or anything about yourself? Not marketing, I'm sorry. Put that, I'm so used to saying sales and marketing, but more lead generation is what your expertise is, right? Lead generation and sales.
Yeah, first of all, well, we also offer marketing services.
Ah,
So
okay.
in regards to what is going to be your avenue for lead generation. There's cold email, there is LinkedIn, there is ads. Social media is probably going to be the slowest if you're trying to generate leads through posts, but it shows social proof. So even if you send someone a meeting link on LinkedIn, if you send them a meeting link on email, or they see the ad, before they book in, they want to know who they're going to be speaking to. They're probably going to go to Google and, look you up. And even if, 10 people are divided between 2 on LinkedIn, 2 on Instagram, 2 on Facebook, 2 on the website, you want to have all those avenues covered, because that will also increase all the statistics, the close rates, the book rates, pretty much everything. Like if you think yourself, someone reaches out to you with a sales message, even if it sounds interesting, you want to know who you're going to be speaking to and if it's worth your time. And if you go to, let's say, an Instagram page and they haven't had a post in 6 months and there's only 2 posts, it gives you a different feeling than if they have a bunch of highlights, if all the posts are uniformed, if there's 100 of them in the last 4 months. You might not even click a post, but your representation of who that is and if they're worth your time is going to be very different.
That's such an important thing that you just said, because I talk about this all the time ad nauseum. Even though sometimes I fall behind on all these, you have to have a presence out there, or people don't believe that your company exists or that you are who you say you are. So I think that's really important. I think that's really what's beneficial on social media. Although, I do see a lot of people getting traction and clients off of Instagram, or at least matches for their clients on Instagram, and TikTok also has been big. I really haven't fully embraced it. Are you on TikTok?
Yeah, I'm not on TikTok. No, I'm not a TikTok. Or maybe I have a profile. I might have posted some videos. I'm not a TikToker though, I wouldn't say. And I'm not a good dancer. That's I think like that's what most of the videos are, right? So you can definitely make social media work really well, but it's just a bit of a longer process and it takes more consistency. And you can't see, it can be disheartening if you're not seeing immediate results. So I would recommend picking another lead generation funnel and doing the social media beside it, and using the social media with the thought process of it being proof of life and proof of identity, and then let that grow into something else over time, but really focus on the LinkedIn or the I think LinkedIn for you is going to be best. If you're targeting executives, I think that's the best. I think LinkedIn average time spent on the application is something only like 7 minutes per day per person. Instagram is probably like a couple of hours. But if you're going after executives, they're more likely to be spending that time on the platform. And I think that's a better way to get to those people. If
Yeah.
that makes sense.
I've been on LinkedIn since they started, and it's been a long, long time. I used to call it my Rolodex. And they become more social too, which is interesting. I think it has evolved very nicely over time, except they took away the relationship status, which used to be on there when they first launched.
It's
Um,
no good.
what's that?
Not good for
No, it's not good for us, but we have to cross check people. Not for me per se, because I'm not a matchmaker anymore, but for the matchmakers who go through my training, they'll find people on LinkedIn. I find that there's less fake profiles on LinkedIn than on all the other platforms. And you usually kind of want to see their background and their education and all that stuff. And then you cross reference them somewhere else, because usually people just don't use just one profile, they usually have others. Um, Tell me a little bit about your business. We haven't really talked much about that. So I know what you've done over time, but currently now, where do you spend your time? What?
So we have the past was just lead generation, pure lead generation, meetings in the calendar and sales. And now it's moving into an accelerator model. I had a bad ending with a business partner around 8 months ago who
Mm,
ultimately took the money and spent it elsewhere, and it tanked the business very quickly. So I've recently set up what is going to be an accelerator. We're about 6 months into the project, I'd say. So there's still a little bit of work to be done, but ultimately the idea is we're working with early stage businesses. We have startup accelerator, coaching accelerator, and consulting accelerator. Coaching and consulting are obviously niched, right? Specific types of clientele, and startup accelerator is the niche finder, right? Which markets work the best. They go through a program. So month 1, 2, month 3, user interviews, generating leads from LinkedIn, putting together a market entry report. Then once you have that, and you have a good understanding of the market, you start adding on the sales side of things, automated follow-up sequences on the back end to help them close deals, sales coaching, and added lead generation from cold email. You do that for another 2 months, then I missed the part. The initial part also comes with the social media management, right? Then month 6, we add in the ads, and that's kind of when we start scaling, right? If you're doing LinkedIn, cold email, it's one-to-one conversation. So it's good, it's personal, but it can be a little bit slower. Whereas if you run a marketing ad, you could literally promote to 1 million people at once, right? So that's how you scale it once you have some good data and know things are working. Then once it gets to month 10, the idea is we're going to raise investment and then invest in these businesses and then take a portion of it and then really double down. So we're building it out still, but it's going well. It's growing pretty fast. And yeah, we have, I think, 2 people being added to the team every month.
That's amazing. So, and I love the concept of actually being, having an interest in each of these companies. I think that is the future for entrepreneurs, is not to just, collaboration. I thought this year, I'm already saying last year, still 2024, collaboration has been the thing, but actually gaining a percentage ownership of something that you help to build is definitely the future for scaling and really being successful. One thing I was going to ask you, and it's just kind of slipped my mind now, but with your business now, is it something where matchmakers would be good clients? Or is that business not kind of a little bit challenging?
We're B2C, we're B2B, right? You are technically targeting people through business filters. I don't specifically work with what we're doing because the startups we're looking to build the corporations as opposed to solopreneurs. The coaches and the consultants was built out because when you start working with different types of companies, you start noticing which niches are great, which have easy lead magnets, and then we niche into those areas and purely focus on those. If you are going to go the matchmaking route, I would suggest focusing on LinkedIn personally and doubling down there. Don't focus on anything else except, don't look at email, don't look at ads yet. Just LinkedIn. Get linkedhelper.com downloaded. Costs around $15 a month to run. Get your prospect list from Sales Navigator. Make sure it's really refined. Look at every single prospect on the first page after you put in the filters, and make sure you've a refined list in regards to one title. Don't put a CEO and a CFO in the same list because the data is going to be skewed, right? And then run 2 tests at a time against each other. And every single week, make a new test to try and improve it. And after 4 weeks, you're going to notice it gets better every single week. Your targeting gets more refined. And then once you have the data and you have the answers to all these things and this is your best demographic and this is the best template, then add on the email and then start scaling that way instead of trying to do everything at once.
That's such a good point, because I think people get so overwhelmed. But just to clarify, when my question was really, will you be working with matchmaking companies are huge. Some of them are multi-million-dollar companies. They're not one person. So it is a B2B. It's not a B2C. And they're all looking for ways to scale.
We can try it, and if it works, then it works. And this is testing again from my point of view. If it's a business and it's business targeting, then I'll try it for sure.
Yeah. Okay, cool. It's good to know. What's the best way for people to reach you?
Depends. Is it business? Is it personal? I have a personal Instagram or a business website. So
definitely for business, because you've shared some really good nuggets here, and I think some people might want to work with you. So I'm curious, like, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
I think LinkedIn is probably a good way to get a message to me. LinkedIn. Adam Sweeney 93 is my username there. I think it's linkedin.com, Adam Sweeney 93.
Okay. Yeah, no, because I know a lot of matchmakers live on LinkedIn. So when they hear this, they may want to reach out to you for that. And if obviously, if they want to reach out to you on a personal level, I'm not getting involved in that. Well, you can reach out to me, and when Adam is ready, maybe he'll send me a note and say, "Arlene, I'm ready to meet my wife," and then I'll open up the floodgates.
If it happens, it happens. I'm not actively seeking, but I'm not
Reject.
declining it, let's say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I love that. I love that. Well, I can't thank you enough for all this amazing information that you've shared with us today. You are really, really now. Oh, I remember the question I wanted to ask you. Are there any sales mentors that you follow?
So I personally, I haven't gone the route of using mentors. In Ireland, I think things are a little bit different in America. In America, there's more opportunity. People are thinking business from a young age. And that's kind of, I think it's popular in America to use mentors. I didn't go that route. I would say the first time I actually had a proper mentor where I was asking questions to was my business partner. And even though I got fucked over by a lot of money in the end, I'm up for all the stuff I learned from him.
Right.
And if you can get a good mentor that knows all the things you want to do, like anytime you get any question in your mind, write it down on your phone. And when you get on a call with that person, run through like as many questions as you can, because it really is such a shortcut. I learned in 2 years, or maybe a year and a half, I can't even remember, from him more than I had done in, let's say, the 3 or 4 years previous combined.
Amazing. But like, so there's nobody that you've ever learned, like I know there's Grant Cardone, there's all these different people out there that are quote unquote sales experts. You've never followed anybody or even kind of
So
taken any of those courses?
you mean like online personalities, like
Yeah,
YouTube?
yeah.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Well, yes, in that. So sales, honestly, I'd say I'm covered. What I was talking about, my business partner, that was business related, growing a business, entrepreneurship. I love Alex Hermosi. For me, he is the best. Everything he puts out, I get something from every single time.
Okay.
And he's always testing things. And he's someone who seems to pay for a lot of mentorship. And then he just does the mentorship and shares it with his viewers. So you're kind of getting access to everyone through him.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, like I said, I cannot thank you enough for being on this show and just sharing so many incredible things that I think people are going to go back and listen to this over and over again to write down and take notes, because it's really, really helpful. And I think it's something that will help you. And as you said, very transferable skills to have over, the course of your life. So thank you, Adam, for being on the show. And I
No
will be in
worries.
touch.
All right. Thank you, Arlene. Have a good one. It was a pleasure.
Bye. So there you have it, folks. That was Adam Sweeney. He is incredibly sharp. I was so impressed with him when I spoke to him on a sales call, actually. And I was like, this guy is so impressive. I think I want to interview him on my podcast. So, with that said, I do want to get into a little bit of another segment of the show, which is to tell you about some of the daters that are out there that are working with VIP matchmakers. I'm sorry, VIP clients of matchmakers. And this is the segment that is sponsored by the Worldwide Referral Network. And what I want to do is just tell you a little bit about who is available right now. And then if you know someone, or perhaps you yourself would like to meet this person, then you can go ahead and send us a notification, or just go to www.rnetwork.com and fill out a profile, and then let us know that you heard about a person on the podcast and give us the details. And if you are the right person to meet them, then we will go ahead and make those connections. So let's take a pause right here for 1 second, and I will come right back to that description so you can hear a little bit about our client searches at the moment. These are not our clients, just to be clear. This is the Worldwide Referral Network, who helps connect daters to matchmakers, and those matchmakers then vet the individual and decide, collectively, if it's a mutual match, they will introduce you to their VIP clients. So there's no guarantee, but it's free. And the quality of people that tend to hire matchmakers is pretty high up there. I'm going to read to you a little bit about one of the VIP clients of a matchmaker who is seeking a match for this particular individual. Obviously, we won't be sharing who the matchmaker is or any identifiable information other than a few details about this individual. If you know someone or you yourself think you might be a match for this individual, please go ahead and go to the Worldwide Referral Network to fill out a profile. And I will actually post the website right now so that you know what it is. It is www.rnetwork.com. And there you can fill out a profile for daters and mention that you heard some information. Give us the information that you hear about the individual you're interested in meeting, and we will try to connect you with that matchmaker. Okay, so this individual has a master's degree. Their job title is a teacher and business owner. Their political affiliation is liberal. Their description a little bit here. They are family oriented, cultured, intellectual, love to nurture. This happens to be a female, and she is seeking a male, cis male, in the age range of 55 to 68. Anybody who has an athletic shape. And let's see, the vast majority of men and women agree to, okay, hold on, I'm reading the wrong thing here. So essentially, we're talking about a female who is of Indian descent, and she's Indian American. She's a Buddhist, and she is 58 years old, and she's seeking a match who is a man and prefers blondes and also would like to meet someone who is 5'5" or taller. And again, she's seeking someone 55 to 68. So there you have it, folks. That is just one person in our slew of lists, and we will continue to, as a matter of fact, let me read one more for you. This person is a man, Caucasian, he's Catholic, he lives in New York and has a master's degree. His title is financial risk manager. His political affiliation is centrist, and he wants to have children. He is seeking a partner, a woman who is either in Connecticut or New York. Ideally, someone Caucasian or Asian between the ages of 27 and 39. His ideal partner is honest and intelligent, easygoing, family-oriented, active, adventurous, and open for a long-term committed relationship. And hopefully she is a good communicator, enjoys traveling and embarking on new adventures. That is the submission that we received. And if you know someone who might be interested in meeting this gentleman, or you fit the criteria of what he's looking for, please reach out to us by going to the Worldwide Referral Network, which is www.rnetwork.com. Fill out a profile and let us know that you heard a description in the podcast that you're interested in meeting this person. All right. That is it for now. And thank you so much for tuning in. Please remember to subscribe and to send us your comments and let us know if there's anything you want to hear, and we will do our best. Again, thank you again for joining us. Bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to the Matchmaker Mentor podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with fellow matchmakers and friends. For more resources, training, and inspiration, visit lovepromastermind.com and follow us on social media. Remember, matchmaking isn't just a career, it's a calling. Let's keep building connections, changing lives, and growing together. Until next time, stay inspired and keep matching.